Hello, everyone. It is Miranda Dennis, licensed clinical social worker in New York, Virginia, and Alabama. And I am the proud owner of Oasis Clinical Counseling Services, where we provide Christian counseling, we provide trainings and workshops to help you live a life that is well mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, all of those things, because you are a whole person. And so first I have to apologize because I started this series like 2 years ago. And I think I literally only have two of the primary emotions listed: sorrow and joy. And there are 8 primary emotions. And I did this series because it was requested of me. Several people had asked me about it, and I was willing to do it, and then I just dropped off. So I humbly apologize and ask for your forgiveness. And so I am back. I am going to try and post more often so that you can find the resources that you need in order to live a life that is well and a life that God intended you to live. So with that being said, today we are talking about one of the 8 primary emotions, and you will have to go back to the very first video if you would like to know all of the 8 primary emotions. But today we're only going to be talking about the emotion of disgust. So I have a couple of things written down just to make sure I stay on track and that I provide you all of the necessary information. So typically, the first thing I want to say about, let me just back up. Let me just say this about emotions in general. Every single emotion that you have is necessary. Every single emotion you have is made to provide you with information. We never, ever want to stop emotions. What we want to do is we want to experience emotions. We want to listen to the information the emotion is bringing. And this is the third thing, is the most important. You want to determine, is that emotion real, valid, and does it fit the facts? I say this to my clients all the time. Is that emotion real? Is it valid? Does it fit the facts? Where is the evidence for the information that any emotion is trying to make you feel or believe? If there's no evidence, you can politely or not so politely throw that emotion in the trash. If it does fit the facts, then the information that emotion is bringing you, then it has 3 jobs, and every emotion has 3 jobs: to provide you the information, to motivate you to do something different, more or less, and to validate something that you already know within inside of you. So those are the 3 jobs of emotions. So this is why I say we don't want to stop emotions, because what will happen, the more that you avoid emotions, the more that you try to dismiss them, the more that you try to push them under the rug, guess what will happen? It will come back and it will bring friends. And then you won't be in a good place, because then you'll feel like, oh, I'm overwhelmed and my emotions are dictating and controlling me, and I feel out of control. So you definitely want to spend time acknowledging and experiencing the emotion, experiencing it mentally, but also experiencing it physically, because our body is constantly giving our brain cues as to what we're thinking, feeling, and what we need to do. So let me talk a little bit about disgust. So disgust is a primary emotion. Most people think of disgust as a secondary emotion, or they confuse the feeling of disgust with anger. Anger is a separate emotion. It is also a primary emotion. I'm gonna give that one to you for free. Although I said you had to go back and listen to the first video to get the 8 primary emotions. But I will tell you that anger is a primary emotion. And so many people who feel disgust mistake disgust for anger. And those are two separate emotions. I will also say this. Many times, emotions can be a combination of one or two other emotions. So it might be easier if I give you some secondary emotions to what the primary emotion of disgust is. So a secondary emotion might help you be able to identify when you're feeling disgust and to know the difference between disgust and anger. So I'm going to give you some secondary words, but before I do that, I want to help you realize and identify a little bit more about what disgust is. So many times when this is how I often describe and help people to connect the feeling of disgust. So think of a baby, and even if you don't have children, I'm sure you can relate to this example. Think of a time you babysat, you watched your niece, your godchildren, your own child, and you gave them some new baby food that you would want them to experience because you want them to be healthy and you want them to have a full palette of vegetables and fruit and meats and all of those things. So you take the little Gerber baby food or a food that you parade and you offer it to the baby. If it's something that is disgusting to them and they don't want and they reject it, what do they often do? Right? They're spewing it out, they're pushing you away, and they're turning their face, they're turning their head because they are experiencing the emotion of disgust. So it is an innate primary emotion that we have, that we are born with before we even have language. Disgust. So the next time you are in a situation that makes you feel revolted or repulsed by something, it may not be anger, it actually may be disgust. Why is it important to know the difference between disgust and anger? Well, different emotions impact our body differently. Also, it brings, like I said before, different information. So, with the information, if something is disgusting you and you have gone through the three jobs of that emotion because you've determined that the information that disgust brought to you was real, valid, and fit the facts, then you also are now able to determine how to cope with it. The way that we manage and cope with the feelings of disgust is very different than how we cope with the feeling of joy, how we cope with the feeling of anger, how we cope with the feeling of sorrow. That's why you need to know how you physically experience, mentally experience, the thoughts that you're thinking so that you know what to do and how to manage and cope with that emotion in a healthy way. Now I'm going to tell you the secondary. So here are some secondary words that you may be more familiar with that are related to disgust. Distaste, disdain, aversion, spite. You might feel sickened. You might have that pit in your stomach, kind of like feeling, right? You might feel a little sick about an interaction or something someone said or something that you saw that you're just so just revolting to you that you don't want any part of it. That is most likely disgust. Doesn't mean that you also don't have maybe anger about the situation, but it does mean that if I know that I'm disgusted by this interaction or this experience, then I now have information that maybe this is not a place for me. Maybe this is not a person I want in my circle. Okay. Let me tell you a few more things that might prompt or cause the emotion of disgust. Seeing somebody get sick, seeing somebody being injured, that might cause you to feel disgust. Seeing somebody that is being a hypocrite. They are faking something that they're not. That may very well cause the emotion of disgust. Mistaken often, I know I keep saying this, but mistaken often for that person made me mad or I'm angry about that situation. Are you angry or are you disgusted by the actions that you're seeing that do not align with the facade that is being presented? Different emotions, different information, different ways to cope. Anger versus disgust. Something else, if you smell something bad, if you observe or you hear somebody treating somebody else wrong or saying something mean about the other person, that also can be a prompter for you to feel disgust. So here's some things that here's some body cues that you may want to be aware of so that you know that you may be experiencing disgust versus anger. I talked about earlier the pit in your stomach. Feeling like an intense urge to destroy something doesn't always mean you are experiencing anger. It could be disgust. Having the urge to just like clean yourself, wash your hands, take a shower because you want to wash away the experience. You don't want to be associated with that person, that event. So feeling the need to cleanse, shower, wash your hands could be your body's way of providing you information that you are experiencing the emotion of disgust. Feeling like you're polluted, like you're mentally fatigued, or that thing just made me feel out of sorts, like it polluted the person that I am, and I just want to be away from it. That is also your body giving you a cue that you may be experiencing disgust. Many times, so how we think impacts how we feel. Our body gives us cues, and then many times there are actions that we take out of disgust that also may look similar but are different than being angry. So, if you are experiencing the emotion of disgust, sometimes you will want to cut off a person. I don't want to be with them. I don't want to be around them. I don't want to be associated with them. Sometimes you may walk around with a face that looks like this. You may not even notice you're doing it, but I know I have done that. And like, like, ew, that's nasty. Like your face and your whole body is like, ugh, disgusted. So you may have facial expressions that are expressing disgust before you even recognize it. You might be, like I talked about with the baby, turning your head, closing your eyes, like trying to physically push something away from you could be a reaction or a response to feelings of disgust. Clenching your hands, maybe even becoming more sarcastic about an incident or an interaction can be a sign or an act or something you do that shows you are disgusted. Why am I telling you all of these things? Self-awareness is key to self-development. Self-awareness is key to living life well. Self-awareness is key to, everybody's talking about this, self-care. Self-care, self-care. Well, if you don't know yourself and how you experience emotions, how are you going to take care of you? Which brings us to the coping. So how do you cope with emotions of disgust? There are a number of ways. Of course, I don't have the end all be all on the ways of taking care of you, but I can give you a couple examples. I know for me personally, if there is something that is causing me to have that icky feeling, it's disgusting, one of the first things that I do is I hold space and I honor my feeling. I listen to the information. And now, because I'm motivated, because of the information that I have, I'm shifting my perspective. I'm shifting what I do. I'm shifting what I don't do. So that might mean, you know what? This person doesn't get as much of my time. I am not going to patronize this establishment again because when I went to pay for my food, the person that was checking me out had an attitude. I'm not angry at them, but I'm disgusted at their lack of professionalism. So now I am motivated to get my food somewhere else. So now that's how I cope with it. I may not go there. I may find another way to get my hunger needs met, and it doesn't have to be at that establishment. That might sound simple, but I wanted to make it simple and easy to understand so that you can translate these things into your life. So it's okay to set boundaries. You don't have to have an attitude about it. You don't have to be rude about it. But this is something that you give yourself permission to do so that you can live life well and that you can manage your emotions. We don't necessarily want to get rid of disgust. It may be we need to get rid of the people in our lives that might be causing disgust. It may be we need to do something different than we did before so we get a different result. Does that make sense? All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that's all I have for today. I just wanted to pop on with this quick informational video during the lunchtime hour. So hopefully, if you're not here live, if you are here live, thank you for being present. If you're not here live, certainly put your thoughts in the comments, put your questions in the comments. Hopefully this is helpful for you. Hopefully I've provided you with some basic information that will help you to determine what disgust looks like, feels like, and how to cope with it when it does arrive. Because we know that there are 8 primary emotions, and we are at some point in our life going to experience all of those emotions, and we are going to give attention to the emotion. Doesn't mean we believe it because emotions are not always facts. They have information. Sometimes emotions lie. This is why you have to check the facts. Where's the evidence that supports this emotion? Is it real? Does it fit the facts? Does it even make sense? So I'll leave you with that. Have a wonderful day. Go and live life well and on purpose. And I will see you in the next video. Take care.